Hello. Tough one there because first period was finally good. It's been a problem a lot of the season, certainly recently, certainly against Nashville. And the hope was like, all right, well, this is a team that also starts a bit slow in Carolina. They're a team that grows into the game as well. I'm not really makes sense with their style. Nonetheless, that is how it typically goes. They're not particularly good when they allow the first goal. That was only their 12th win of the season when they allow, or when they allow the first goal. They're just about 500 now. I think they might now be exactly 500. So to get off to the start, the Golden Knights went ahead and got and then to have it not extend or at least not get to the lead to the level that you would have expected based on how they played, generating basically two expected goals in the first period, having a lot of the zone time, really not spending a lot of time trying to break the puck out, a lot of controlled exits. I do think you're starting to notice that, like, we're getting to the time of the season, and this is fairly normal. And I called this January slumber for a reason. That it does seem like it's year in and year out that we get to around this time, and all of a sudden you start to see the rush offense dry up. Now, it's interesting that the rush offense is kind of what buried the Golden Knights in this game. This puck in off Hannafin's stick is a rush chance, which is a little bit frustrating because there's a chance out in front the other way, and the Golden Knights don't win onto that one. Now it comes to a rush chance the other way. You're chasing the play a little bit on a 3-on-2. I thought they had it fairly defended, gets a stick on it, and it ends up in the goal, and now you end up behind. It's the second one that's a bit of a problem, and Cassidy described it in the post game. So Hannafin's in deep trying to make a play, and this is the part where I think this is going to end up being kind of the story of the Golden Knights season. I think when all is said and done and this season is over, I think what we're going to know and what we're going to find out is, can you pass your way into scoring in the biggest moments? So that's a moment where the game's 2-1. There's an opportunity in deep. The Golden Knights have good players on the ice. They're in a good position. Hanifin gets it right off to the side of the goal. Now, if he shoots it immediately, maybe it's a goal, maybe it's not. Kochetkov's been seeing a lot of the pucks. He's been very good starting goalie. Most of them have been pretty good against the Golden Knights this season. He tries to send a pass to the back door. Now, Barbashev's wide open. Like, that's a tap-in goal. The Golden Knights have been getting goals like this. This is how they like to play. This is what I wrote about this morning, saying why they get some of their slow starts is because a lot of times these opportunities come and they tap these in. Sometimes at the beginning of games, you don't get these opportunities as consistently because the game is not as clean at the beginning of games. As you grow into it, you get these chances. This is a third period opportunity. It's there for them. They try to get the opportunity. It's not there, doesn't come off, they knock it away. Now you end up with also a player back. I think it's Stone. It might be Eichel. I'd have to watch the tape again. But someone back, one of the forwards, has to understand that Hannafin's got in deep here. Hannafin's in front of the goal. So you have to lag back to make sure that if they hit a chip out, you're not dealing with a 2-on-1. They do hit the chip out. And all of a sudden, we're in the situation where they're getting a 2-on-1. 2-on-1's not particularly played all that great. It's a little bit over committed. Puck gets to the back door, and Jarvis is going to score from there. Good player. He's going to score that opportunity. It's a rush chance. It's what you're seeing. Now, Golden Knights had a few rush chances. Kolazar gets in, has the one out in front, kind of gets hooked and pulled down. Long shift, bangs his knee, I think, on the ground or on somebody else or on the post, or I don't know what it was, but he looked like he was a little bit hobbled. They call it for the penalty shot. In that spot, we don't want a penalty shot. Like, Kolazar's never taken a penalty shot. Kolazar's never taken a shootout opportunity. Yeah, he does it in practice quite a bit. They all kind of take these opportunities in practice. He does have pretty good hands to score on these. He has shown it in the past that this is a chance where he could potentially bear down and make it. But with where it is on the shift, with where it is with the injury or momentary injury, it's not like he's hurt and out for the game or whatever. It's just like you can clearly see he's laboring a little bit at that moment. It would be nice if there was something in the rules that allows you to not have a penalty shot there, that you could potentially take the power play. Because you look at the other chances the Golden Knights got, all three of the other power plays, they're nowhere near the goal. Opportunities behind the goal. And then there we are with with 2 minutes and they score the goal late in the game and get themselves back in. And I think that would have been a chance, especially with the way that the game was going in that moment, that it was still tilting towards Vegas, that they were very good for the first 20 minutes. They were really good for the first 6, 7, 8 minutes of the second. You get this penalty shot, and the fact that he stops it kind of seemed to spur a little bit Carolina into the game. And now other chances come. They get the goal that ties it. They end up getting the opportunities that get them going into the third period. And it's just frustrating. It's like that's a chance where it's a different guy maybe we would like, but he gets the opportunity. The other one's the breakaway to Stone. It's just a Brent Burns fuck up. We're going to get those from time to time, and you got to take advantage of them. When you play a team that's pretty darn good, that has lost a few games recently and knows that they need to get back going in the right direction, that's a chance you need. Now, Stone gets going in the right direction. Looks like it's a true breakaway. I do think it's possible that it would have been chased down. I don't know who the other player was that was chasing him from the other side. I do think it's possible that he would have gotten chased down. So I'm not completely opposed to taking the slap shot there. It is disappointing because it should be a pretty clear break and it doesn't end up really being all that dangerous of a chance. Like it's a slap shot from pretty far out. Goalie's pretty far out. There's not a lot of goal to shoot at there. So really the rush chances that they got, one of them turns into a penalty shot. One of them kind of gets hawked down, or at least enough to the point of where Stone thinks he has to give the opportunity up and take the long shot. And you end up with nothing. And that's where you look at the scoring, you look at the way that the games have gone, and all of the power play goals that they've gotten over the course of the last 4 games. I think it's 5 power play goals in the last 4 games. 5-on-5's been a struggle. And Hertl, good on him, stepping forward today because he had a couple of opportunities in the first, and he takes the opportunity in the second to cut the puck inside, get it up off the ice, get it up into the roof, or at least close to the roof, and makes a play that the Golden Knights have not been making directly in front of the goal. That is what he's here for. And now we are getting a little bit more out of him. And that's the part that now, as the offense has slowed down, you are starting to look at, all right, who are we not getting the offense from? And in this particular game, and really the last couple, it has not been Hertl. Hertl's been one I've been on all season long because I just don't think it's been good enough at 5-on-5. Today, it was. The last couple of games, it was. I rewatched the Minnesota game. He was good in that one. Like, there are more players that have to get going. And it'll bring me up to what I've been yapping about for quite a while here. And I think I'm going to continue yapping about because tonight is the perfect example for it. It's as clear as day by not only the data, but also by watching the game live. But first, I'll tell you that this Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. Winning definitely matters. Winning did not happen tonight. Winning has not been happening enough recently, which is not good. But so when you need to win in a civil matter or a family matter or a business matter, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. Here's what I'm saying. So you're fully healthy at the moment. The decision today is to go with Schwindt over Holtz. I have no problem with that decision. I do think after what we've started to see out of Holtz, I am starting to question maybe with the fact that the scoring has been in a little bit of a slumber, maybe you do want Holtz over Schwindt. I don't think Schwindt offers that much offensively. I do think that with Howden and Kolazar, like I don't know. Maybe does Kolazar go or Howden? Sorry, it was Howden and Carlson. Maybe does Kolazar go there? Can you potentially flip Pearson to the other side, which they haven't done a ton of? That's kind of the spot that it's like that's where we could use the extra player because if you're getting what you're getting out of Olofsson, Hertl, and Dorofeev, and I think they've been pretty good, then that's what we need. But beyond anything, and if you start to say, all right, well, how do you find more balance in the lineup? The biggest thing to me, beyond anything, is you have to get dominance, absolute dominance out of Barbashev, Eichel, and Stone. If you're not getting dominance out of those three, and by dominance, I mean absolutely has to be a 5-on-5 goal every single night, probably need to draw a penalty as well, and can't give up anything on the other end. That's not what we got today. We don't get any goals. We give up 2. with Stone and Eichel out there. And really, the middle portion of the game, at least the portion where it went against the Golden Knights, was mostly at different times heading in the wrong direction because that group was not living in the offensive zone. They had a pretty good first period. Stone had a really good first period. Eichel certainly looked better in the first period. But in this particular game, against a team like this, where they have Jordan Staal, there are going to be teams that the Golden Knights are going to play. And as we start to look at the standings and you start to focus on who can it possibly be when the games truly matter, when you have to win 4 out of 7, maybe it's going to be LA. And if it's LA, Kopitar and Jordan Staal are similar. They also have a guy behind him in Phil Deneau. They can look at it a bunch of different ways. There are options. Teams with dominant, shutdown defensive forwards, and especially if they can make a true forward line, which this team can, that's Carolina, are going to make it awfully difficult, especially in road games, for Eichel, Barbashev, and Stone. Because of that, I really strongly believe, and I will continue advocating for it, that they have to find another set of lines that has them separated. Who does that mean? Does that mean Hurdles up with Eichel? Does that mean Stones with Carlson? What does it look like? There's so many different possible ways to do it. And as I dug into the stats earlier today to kind of write a little bit about that, or maybe it was yesterday, I can't remember what day I wrote about it, but as I started to dig into the stats, maybe it doesn't have to be Barbashev and Eichel. Maybe you can look at Howden playing in that role because Howden did have success with Stevenson and Stone in the postseason. Howden is having the best season of his career. Can he play true first line minutes? I don't know about that. But also, I think that there's an argument to be made that it doesn't have to be 12 in just your 12 forwards, and that's the only way we roll it out. Look to what Edmonton has done in the past. Look to what many other teams have done in the past, which is then they load it up. We've seen that with the defensemen. All of a sudden, we need a goal. We're going to put Theodore and Pietrangelo out there together. There should be another tool in the tool bag, in the toolbox, whatever you want to call it. And I think the answer to that is start finding ways to look at different options where Eichel and Stone are not together. Look at options where Barbashev is not with Eichel. Maybe even Barbashev is somewhere else and Eichel and Stone do stay together. But you have to find ways to have different options so that if a team is dominating you in the way that they were able to with Jordan Staal in this particular game, then you have a different look, then you have a different option, then you have a different way to go about scoring. Now, overall, the scoring is kind of going to be the biggest question of the season. Like I said earlier, I think the key is going to be how are they going to find goals if they're not passing the puck into the goal? Because we know, based on 46 games or whatever it's been to this point, that this team does have the ability to pick apart a defense. They can do the job of where they get it in the offensive zone, pass it all around, get you all discombobulated, and find a tap in on the back door, find a seam pass and fire one into the back of the net. That's how Howden's gotten a lot of goals. That's how Dorofiev's gotten a lot of goals. Olofsson's gotten a lot of goals. That's that. It's the play more in front. It's the play where you are looking for the tip. You are looking for the shot from the point and winning the second chance in front. You're looking at the play from underneath the goal line into the low slot or into the circle. These are the opportunities that just frankly have not been coming for this team. And when we looked at overall before this season started, and you look down the list and you say, all right, well, who are the wingers that are going to do the job, that are going to get the scoring for this team? There were massive question marks. Now, Howden, Olofsson, Dorofeev have answered some of those question marks. You could throw Kolazar into that. Stone, we knew what we were going to get out of Stone. We pretty much knew what we were going to get out of Barbashev, and even he has kind of answered some of the question. But now it's starting to slow down. Dorofeev did not score a bunch, did not score really at all for a long period of time. He gets now 4 in 2 games, and all of a sudden it looks like he's back in play. Maybe Howden can get it back going again. Kolazar had the chance today, wasn't able to get it. Maybe things can go back in the right direction, but this is also the time of year where a lot of the goals that you score and the way that you score them in November and October and early in the season do not happen from this point on. You don't get them the same way from January all the way into April and then into the games that truly matter in end of April into May and hopefully into June. You've got to have answers of how to score in front of the goal. Now, it is nice that the power play is operating at 26% or whatever it is. It's top 5 in the league. It's basically scoring 1 on every 4. That's going to make a huge difference. That's something that we've never really had in the history of the team looking back to all the playoff runs. There's never been a time where you say if they give 4 power plays, the Golden Knights are going to get a goal. You probably need 5 or 6 to feel positive in that. And thus, we were expecting maybe 1 power play goal every other game. I think at this point, in a playoff series, we can probably pencil the Golden Knights in for 5, 4, 5, somewhere in that. Now, that allows you to need much fewer number of goals from your 5-on-5. That is beneficial. But we've been getting the power play goals recently and still not finding ways to get over the top against not the best teams in the world. Carolina is a very good team. I'm not taking anything away from them, but they just lost to Anaheim. They just lost to Buffalo. Like they're not at their peak right now. They're not playing their best hockey at the moment. Golden Knights lost to New York, who is starting to play better, but also is not a very good team, the Rangers. We'll see. Maybe they make the playoffs. I don't know. I wouldn't even be surprised if they don't. Nashville is bad. New York Islanders are bad. Like they have played some bad teams. The team they beat, Minnesota, is a shell of what the actual Minnesota is. Starting goalies, good teams, road games are starting to be question marks. And that's where you look at the standings and you say, this team's in first. This team's right along the top for the President's Trophy. They've dominated all the way up to this point. How can you not buy what this team is selling at this point? And my answer would be, because there are underlying factors that are indicating that it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult ride. And this is the ride I think we all expected coming in. It's a huge benefit to this team, especially understanding that 7 of the guys are going to 4 nations and aren't going to get the true buy. It's a huge benefit that they're probably not going to be chasing points. They're not going to be looking behind them and worrying about a playoff spot. They're still, what is it? It's still like 12 or 13 points clear of the playoffs, right? Let's see, 61. Playoffs are at 48. Yeah, so it's 13 points clear of the playoffs. Like, that's unlikely that that's going to fall apart. And that's off of a 4 out of 5 stretch. And would say lost every single game in regulation. Like, you're still not even remotely close to worrying about that. So that's a huge benefit. But getting the game in order and finding ways to get yourself to a position where you believe we're getting 3 every single night. And the way that it's gone, like I said, power plays, you probably only need 2 at 5-on-5. This team doesn't draw a lot of penalties. I did like what they did today. That's a huge thing that I thought really helped them generate offense today and stay in this game and really keep the pedal down against a team that was struggling early in this game. Was they're playing through the opposition as opposed to trying to play around them. A lot of times they pass around them, they dump in, they go and they make these plays. They're making passes out and trying to find time and space, and you don't get these opportunities where teams are having to hook you, having to slash you, having to hold you, these type of things. Today, we saw all of that. We saw every part of that today where they were getting these opportunities. And even in the situation late, 6-on-5, Dorofeev gets taken down. I don't necessarily think he did anything to draw that penalty necessarily, but that's another penalty that should have been called. And the Golden Knights should have had 5 power plays in this game and maybe tie it up late with a 6-on-4 opportunity. The other one, like the other side, is this team doesn't take a lot of penalties, which is beneficial. Penalty kill has been much better. Very, very, very good today. So good that they almost tied the game up on the penalty kill on the 5-on-5 with the goalie pulled late. I do want to touch on that a little bit, and that's Hill leaving and then coming back and it being too close. The too many men. To me, like, it's probably on the goalie. I listened to what Cassidy said about it. I wanted to hear kind of how he looked at it. He basically said Hill came over. We thought Hill was close enough that they could send the extra player on. It was not the extra player going on that was the problem. It was Hill staying on or going back or whatever actually happened. I do think that was on the goalie. I think in that situation, if you're the goalie, you're not going to make a save if you're on your way out. Like the chances that the play turns around and you're able to turn back around and make the play are incredibly low. So the moment you make the decision to go, just go. Just get off the ice, get out of there. If they end up shooting the puck into the empty net moments after, so be it. Like, it is what it is. The guys know that you're coming out. They were going to have to make the play. I don't like the fact that there was a little bit of, do I go? Do I not go? Do I go back? And obviously, we know was offside, and that threw the whole playoff, and that's why it got all discombobulated there. But to me, it's probably on Hill in that situation. When it's time to go, you go. Get out of there. If the sixth forward isn't on the ice, that's on the forwards, that's on the coaching staff. When you are told to go, or get any inkling of them saying it's time to go, you go. That's it. Get out of there. That probably, I mean, that could have cost them at least 1 point, if not two today. Because they're there, they're pushing, they're getting those opportunities late. And you look at the last couple of games, you look at the New York game, they didn't really have a ton of chances late in that one. Certainly the Nashville game, certainly tonight, there were opportunities, there were chances, and it wasn't there. Let's see this one. Can you talk about results-oriented hockey analysis? How results-oriented hockey analysis seems like this could have very easily been a game that could have gone the other way, and there's no concern at all. The sports is so results-oriented, margins for fair. Yeah, so I'll touch on that. So I don't really look at individual games necessarily. I start to look at it a little bit more when we get to the postseason and we start to say, okay, what went right, what went wrong in this particular game, what were the breakdowns that allowed to the goal, how repeatable or what has happened to happen in the future. In the middle of a season, in a longer span, you look for bigger picture items. The bigger picture items that have been coming up recently. 5-on-5 play hasn't been necessarily good enough. Starts have been pretty poor, not winning stick battles in front of the goal as often, not finding ways to generate rush chances as often has led to a collective not scoring at the same level that was expected. Defensively, they've been really good. Penalty kill seems to be growing and getting better as the season has gone along, even though the numbers aren't necessarily backing that up. Power play started to kind of take a step back. It does seem like maybe they've turned a corner a little bit. I do think that some of these opportunities have not been in the best situations. It's not a lot of tie game situations or early game situations where they're getting the goals. That's where a really dominant power play really makes a huge difference. Like if they had gotten one early in this game, maybe it does make a bigger difference where you get a couple late against Minnesota, you get the one late here in this game, you get the one when you're already down 4-0 or 4-1 or whatever it was against Nashville. Like these are not pressure packed moments. I guess the Minnesota one sort of is, but then the other one wasn't. So yes, there's a chance that something could have gone differently. The puck doesn't go off Hannafin's stick and into the goal. Something could have gone slightly differently in this particular game, and therefore we are talking about this being a win as opposed to it being a loss. I don't think this game is a terrible game. I don't think this game is one where we're going to look back to early, later in this season and say, that's the game that turned the season. That's the game that was the disaster. That's kind of the showing of all the bad things that can happen. No. But I also think if you look at the way that the game went, Vegas probably deserved to be up by more than 1-0 early. But I think with all the penalties, with all the opportunities that Carolina got, with the fact that they ring the post on a real clear chance from Aho, like that probably doesn't happen too often. They get the rush chances. Like I thought their chances overall were better than Vegas's. I just think that when you look at how have the games been going, today does fall into a lot of the same trends that we have seen. And the lack of scoring, or at least they're not scoring in bunches as they were before. Like we were talking for a while there about how this team scores 3 consecutive goals all the time. It's not happening. In fact, it's happening against them a little bit. Yeah, they did it against Minnesota. Okay, but it hasn't been happening. And that's partially because the 5-on-5 play hasn't been at the level that it was before. And I think that has more to do with the way the games are going to be played. And that has been seen in a lot of these games recently. Now, tomorrow, we're probably not going to see that. Chicago's bad. They're not going to be able to play the type of game that is a strong checking game that's going to make you work for your 5-on-5 goals. The Golden Knights are going to get opportunities tomorrow. It's just whether or not they bear down on them. And it comes down to how focused are they? How fatigued are they? All of that. It's a back-to-back. The other team's not on a back-to-back. There's going to be money on the board for them with Alec Martinez. Like, yeah, there's extenuating circumstances, but Vegas should be fine in this particular game. And really, I'm not going to read into all that much either way. Like, if it's a disaster, we can easily chalk it up to it being a back-to-back. If it's a great game, you can easily chalk it up to being Chicago sucks. So that one's not that big a deal. It's the rest of them and the kind of the overall piece that I'm really starting to hone my focus in on some of the wingers. You're not getting the goals from Barbashev since he came back. You're not getting goals from Stone at the consistency that he normally has. Like, what does he have at this point? Where let me find the number. It's not enough. Like, it's quite frankly is not enough. Like that simply. Here we go. Mark Stone has 12 on the season. Dorofeev 19, Barbashev 15, Howden 15, Hurdle 13, 12 for Stone. Then you go down and it's like, I don't know. I just feel like this season there hasn't been enough scoring and consistent scoring, at least in the recent time. Like, look at the wingers. So Pavel has 19, Barbashev has 15, Howden has 15, Stone 12, Kolizar 10, Olofsson 9. When you start getting down underneath that, then you basically nobody scored goals. That's mostly winger scoring. When the wingers score, the team scores 4 a night. They beat just about everybody. When it starts to dry up a little bit, when the game starts to change and you start to have to deal with more in-zone scoring being necessary, that's where we're not getting it. And that's why you're starting to see defensemen pinching in a little bit more, defensemen joining the rush, and it's starting to be 2-on-1s the other way, breakaways the other way, opportunities going the other way that eventually ended up burying them tonight. They are going to have to push for offense. We'll see. The schedule is not terrible. It's also not great. The next 3 games are not particularly difficult. It's Chicago, then St. Louis win a home and home. The first one's at home. It's a weird time, so I don't particularly like that with it being Martin Luther King Day. Don't love that. Probably want to win at least one of the ones against St. Louis. Would love to win the one tomorrow. If you could do that, you're back in the right position. You'll be perfectly fine. If they don't, if there is 2 losses in the next 3 and it turns into being 6 out of 8, that's where it can be a legitimate swoon. It can be a legitimate concern of saying, how do they get out of this? Do you have to start looking at whatever the deal is off of before 4 Nations as opposed to after? Should we be worried about Stone? He's looking stiff. I think that's kind of how Stone always looks, to be completely honest with you. I thought he was really good at the beginning of this game. He was very good on the penalty kill at different times in this particular game. Like, that's just what it is. He's not going to look like the most flashy, exciting player. And I think when the team struggles to score, you're going to notice some of the deficiencies to what he plays with. It's just natural. But I think he's good enough. I think he's still doing the things that he can. I think he's healthy, or at least he looks fairly healthy at this point. I do think there's an argument to be made to kind of try to find different ways to use his talents, try to find different opportunities to get him in different situations and maybe away from some of the best defensive players. Because when they have Eichel and Stone together, you're getting the best defensive line every single opportunity that they can get. That there's no other question to it. When you split them, maybe they give the best player to Eichel. Maybe not. We will see. Eichel's a playmaker, but is it time for him to shoot more? Yeah, I think probably so. I'm never opposed to Eichel shooting. He's got a very sneaky shot. It's very powerful. I never have any issues with him shooting, so I definitely would never have a problem with that. Tomorrow, Golden Knights are at Chicago. Like I said, I don't expect there to be any issue. Does Holtz go back in tomorrow? I'm going to go with yes, but it wouldn't shock me if it's no. I didn't think Schwint did enough in this game to make the case to stay in. I'm not even sure at this point, like, that's the best option. Like, if you're going to take Holtz out, I don't think Schwint's the best option. If Wah goes out, if Kolizar goes out, if Pearson goes out, okay, fine, we can go to Schwint. If you're taking Holtz out, I don't know that Schwint's the guy. Like maybe Cal Burke's a better option. Do you dig back in and look at Lavoie or Brisson? I don't know. Like that's where I kind of go back and forth on that because Schwint can do some good things. Why is everyone obsessed with winning the Pacific Division? Who cares? Are we afraid of the Kings in the first round? Yeah, I'm not that worried about winning the Pacific Division one way or the other. I do think it would be nice to make sure that the Kings don't win. I don't want to have to go through Edmonton in the first round because I think that series is going to be a bloodbath. Uh, and it's going to be awfully difficult. If those two teams play each other early in the playoffs, I don't think either's going to win the cup. Like it's really that simple. I just think it's going to take too much out of either of them. So I don't really want to see that. If it happens to be, it has to be the second round. So be it. You're going to probably have to beat them at some point. I'm not really afraid of the Kings. I do think that if it's going to be the Kings and if it's going to start to look like the Kings, you've got to find a way to not have it all reliant on one line because they will eat that line alive, especially on the road games. We saw it in the earlier this season on the road game when they smoked the Golden Knights and Eichel and Stone did nothing in that particular game. Like that's one where, okay, if it is going to start looking that way, I don't think it's going to look that way. Carlson has not been scoring much. Is that a problem? Yeah, a little bit, little bit. I do think that is a problem. That if your wingers aren't going to be the driving force of the team, which they're not, you need the driving force to be some of the centers. And Carlson's not scoring enough. Hurdle's been better, like I said. Eichel's probably not scoring enough. I didn't mention his name on any of the top goal scoring lists. And then I don't think Waz scored enough. Granted, he's been back for a short period of time. We'll give him more time. We're not going to get on him yet, but going to need goals from him. Going to need goals from Barbashev. Going to need goals from a lot of guys. The defense, I don't think, is going to be a huge offensive scoring weapon when the games get difficult. Yeah. So no Periscope tomorrow. Probably no Periscope on Monday because it is a weird time. We're probably going to try and do a podcast likely on the Tuesday, and then I'll probably step back into the Periscope on the next St. Louis game, the away game. Tomorrow, I just did the one today. Monday, the weird time. I don't think it's terribly likely, so I'm just giving you the heads up on that one. That's it. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm sponsoring all Periscopes this season. We will see you later.